What's up, everybody? Good afternoon here on this Tuesday. I know we're all waiting on pins and needles for this injury report to come out. Should come out in the next hour or so. It'll tell us an awful lot about what's going to be going on Thursday night. But before we get there, I want to briefly talk about something that happened today that is, I'd say, at least interesting, right? Because the main focus of Seahawks fans this week, even though I think the defense was the worst side of the ball on Sunday, I feel like our main focus as a fan base and as a team and as an organization has been on the offense and the decisions being made on the offense. So I already made a video about this. Everybody's been talking about it. They're not running the ball. And they're not running the ball poorly. That's not what I'm saying. They're choosing not to run the ball. Even when they can run the ball and probably should run the ball, they're not running the ball. And that leads to results like what you got on Sunday against the Giants, where the offense just doesn't work very well. And there was some talk this week about who to blame for that, right? Because you've got your offensive coordinator. You've got Ryan Grubb there, right? He's the play caller. He's the guy who's dialing this stuff up. Everybody looks at him. But there was some debate, I'd say mostly yesterday, but even leaking back to late Sunday. What if it's Geno Smith? What if Geno Smith is audibling out of Ryan Grubb's running plays into passing plays? What if that's what's going on here? What if that's why we're running the ball so little? And that's a possibility, right? That's certainly something that could be happening. Geno Smith has a lot of freedom to do as he pleases when he comes up to the line of scrimmage. It is within the realm of possibility that he is audibling out of runs into passes. Now, some people were speculating that maybe he's doing that because he's chasing his statistical milestones so he can get more money. I think that would be a little bit silly given the fact the Seahawks are one of the league leaders in rushing touchdowns so far this year. We have 8. I think that we're tied for first with the Saints. Maybe the Saints took the lead after this last week. I'm not 100% sure. But we are one of the top teams in the league in running the ball into the end zone. And Geno Smith might be chasing the yard totals, but if that's at play, him chasing stats so he can get more money, you'd think he'd be audibling to passing plays in the red zone. I mean, one of the kind of interesting statistical quirks so far this year is that Geno Smith only has 5 touchdown passes in 5 games. He needs 30 to get his bonus. And there was no indication that he's audibling to passing plays to pad his stats when you've only got 5 passing touchdowns in 5 games. And it's not because we're not scoring. It's not because we're not scoring touchdowns. It's that most of our touchdowns have come on running plays or on a Geno Smith scramble in one case. So I don't really buy that, but I could potentially buy that Geno Smith is audibling and checking out of running plays into passing plays. So what happened today was kind of interesting, where Ryan Grubb kind of fell on the sword. You've got this tweet from Brady Henderson here, where he was asked about the run rate and pass rate against the Giants, and Ryan Grubb said, it's 100% on me. I own that. Got to get the ball to Ken Moore. He also had this from Brady Henderson as well, where we saw Ryan Grubb take more accountability on the 4th and 1 play from our own 35. And a lot of people didn't like the fact that we went for it on this play. I was fine with going for it because the defense was playing so poorly. It was the execution of the play call and the play call itself that I wondered about. And Grubb, again, took accountability for this. He called his play call terrible and awful, saying he put Geno Smith in a bad position by not giving him an out to a better play. Excuse me. Ooh. Will not go away, people. And Grubb gave a more expanded answer on the failed 4th and 1. Felt like we had a good game plan on it. The head coach wants to go for it right there. Totally supported Mike on that. And I probably had 10 calls on the call sheet that were better than that. So That's him taking the blame. And a lot of people are talking about this, by the way. You got Greg Bell. Greg Bell was, I think, one of the big proponents of the potential idea. Not to say that he believed it or that he was pushing it or had some kind of an agenda, but he was one of the people who was definitely saying, what if it's Geno Smith checking out of running plays? Greg Bell's tweeting about it a little bit. Play caller Ryan Grubb takes blame for the Seahawks misusing lead running back Kenneth Walker. You got John Boyle here on the lack of rushing attempts the past couple games. I'll own that. We got to get the ball to Ken Moore. That's 100% on me. And this catches my attention for a couple different reasons. Partially because of the debate that the fan base was having on who was to blame for the lack of rushing attempts, who was to blame for the insanely high pass split. But beyond that, I kind of echoed what Nemhauser said on Twitter after these tweets came out, after this information came out. He says, I don't recall many Seahawks coaches demonstrating that level of accountability. And that's something that goes all the way back to Super Bowl 49. So, I don't know how many people remember it. It was a long time ago now. Super Bowl 49, Seahawks throw the ball at the 1-yard line. You had a bunch of different players and coaches taking accountability for that play. Russell Wilson, Ricardo Lockett, Jermaine Kearse, Pete Carroll. The one guy who didn't was actually Darrell Bevell. Darrell Bevell came out and basically said, well, I liked my play call. I think my play call was good. The players didn't execute it. And that was definitely a delicate moment in that era of Seahawks football where things could have gone in a bad direction. They didn't, at least not immediately, but that was a moment where it was like, wow, you didn't need to say that in public, man. And I've made videos and I've talked about in the past how in the last, I'd say 3 years, maybe even a little bit further back than that, it didn't feel like the some of the players, but mostly the coaches, would approach speaking to the media. It felt like, especially during some of the lower moments, the concern was not trying to fix the problem. The concern was, how can I blame somebody else for the problem? Like, I remember Pete Carroll in 2021, when that season spiraled out of control and ended up being a big disappointment, and really should have been the year that got Carroll fired at the time, and did result in Wilson getting traded out of town. There was, I'd say, a big effort from both sides, Carroll and Wilson, to make sure that they didn't get blamed when things went wrong. I remember Lockett made some comments about the way the defense was playing mid-season that were not very complimentary to the game planning and the coaches, and Carroll was asked about that, and he basically said, well, he's wrong. It's not anything that we're doing. It's the players are not executing. And we saw this last year with Carroll publicly calling Jamal Adams and Julian Love out and kind of chucking them under the bus after that second Niners game, where, look, maybe the players are messing up. In those cases, I think the players were messing up. They were making mistakes. You don't need to do that publicly. You don't need to call them out publicly. You don't need to make drama there. Like, just fix the problem and address it behind closed doors as you need to. But when you're going out in front of the media and you're talking to the world, basically, you can just say it's on me and then go behind closed doors and do what needs to be done. So to see something like this, to see somebody fall on the sword in a space where he didn't necessarily need to, is interesting. So that's what kind of jumps out to me here. The fact that Grubb, obviously he just started here and he's probably not even really thinking about job security. Maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe Pete Carroll was doing that. Pete Carroll was blaming players and implying that it was the players' fault because he felt like he was going to get fired if things didn't turn around, and he wanted to throw blame at other people to try to protect himself, whereas Grubb doesn't have that at the moment. Excuse me. Maybe that's part of it, but it is notable that Ryan Grubb's taking this approach of just saying, it's all on me, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to do better, we have to do this, we have to do that, and it's my fault if we don't. So we'll see if it sticks. But right now, one thing I can say is that people are taking accountability for the mistakes this team is making through the first 5 games, right? Mike McDonald took accountability for the poor run defense against the Patriots. Geno Smith takes accountability for his mistakes in post-game press conferences. He did on Sunday in a game where I actually thought he played fine. Maybe not great, but he played fine and was one of the few things keeping us competitive in that game. And now you got this from Ryan Grubb. It's nice to see. Now, it'll be a lot nicer if he's actually able to address the problem and fix it going forward, but I'll take the victories where I can get them. All right, I'll see you guys later. Video coming out soon with the injury report, and yeah, accountability. It goes a long way. Helps me as a fan feel a little bit better about our process and our functionability as an organization.